Howdy folks, and welcome to this episode of Michael's Backyard Marina. Today we're going to try something a little bit bigger. I haven't worked on a 25 horse yet. I picked up a 25 horse. It is a 25 horse Johnson. There is no tag on it. I'm going by what the person put on the ad. And it's a 1973, an oldie but a goodie. We're going to go through all the same steps I go through. The only difference is, just like I did on another 15 horse, the starter recoil spring and everything is in a bag. And I haven't even opened up the bag yet. I just got it in a bag. I'm not sure what's all missing. Worst case scenario, I'm pretty sure I have another one or two motors laying around here that I could possibly take the other starter recoil off of to check compression and whatnot. But I'm excited to get it up and running, but if it's got compression, I bet you we can make it run. The rest of it, as my old friend, there's a guy in, I recommend him, he's fun to watch. It's called This Old Outboard. He's a great guy to watch, and I don't want to steal one of his lines, but he's always saying that if you got good compression, the rest of it's just a pain in the butt. I'm going to keep it clean. It's a pain in the rear, but you guys get what I'm talking about. Check him out. He's fun to watch. Anyway, let's take a look at what we got here. This is the old beast. It's been pseudo camoed painted. I'm kind of hoping that I can get the camo off of this, and I think I'm going to respray paint this white, and or maybe I won't. Sometimes when other people do things that don't bother me, especially if it looks like it's kind of okay. And no harm, no foul. So let's take a look underneath this cover and see what we got. Okay, I want to put it back on. It don't look so pretty under there. Oh, we're not going to let that scare us, though. Let's dig into it and see what we can do to make this thing whole again. Let's take a little quick walk around on the under the hood, and you'll see what I'm seeing. And you'll go, Michael, run away, stay away from that. But it's just mechanical parts. I can't be too afraid of it, can I now? And it's a short shaft, so it won't work on the banana. Well, I'm kind of looking at it with you for the first time myself here. And doesn't look awful. I mean, there's a lot of rusty stuff around here. A lot of white corrosion here, like it was laid on the ground for a while, or who knows what was going on here. But it all looks like it's intact, other than the recoil starter spring. But we're going to have to just dig into it. It looks relatively simple. That's what I love about the early mid-70s stuff. It doesn't get any simpler than this, that's for darn sure. It's all the fuel pumps hanging right out there in the open, easy to get to. The coils are easy to get to. My guess is we got some points and condenser underneath the flywheel we'll need to look at. Looks like nobody's messed with the wiring. The wiring looks like it's all original. Can't complain about that too much. Choke knob seems like it works. I guarantee you we'll have to pull that carburetor apart, but it doesn't look like it gets any more simple than that bad boy there. Plugs look fresh. We're going to pull the plugs and take a look and see what they look like inside. That'll tell us part of the story. So let's do that now. Well, the plugs don't look awful, but they were loose. Loose as a goose. So somebody had pulled those loose at some point in time. This guy that I got this from said it hadn't ran in many years, which that's fine. I can always deal with that. Well, since it hasn't been turned over in a while, I'm going to go ahead and put some spray lube in here, some fogging oil in here. So if I go to roll this thing over, which it feels like it turns okay, that we won't be doing it dry. Go ahead and pull this starter off. See what's going on underneath here. Strange that the spring would be out of it. And that bolt was extremely tight. And the spark plugs were loose. Odd. Who knows what led to what, when, where, or how. Well, that comes off easy enough. Looks like we got 100 pounds in that cylinder. Not awful for something that hasn't ran forever. That's 110 in the bottom. Well, golly. We might have us a runner here. There's no way I got spark. Nope, no spark on the top cylinder. No spark on the bottom cylinder. Oh, we took the flywheel nut off. Now we're just putting my little puller on here. See if we can get this flywheel to pop free. We should be able to. Well, it don't get any simpler than that. There's a couple sets of points in there. A couple of condensers. I think we'll just put new ones in. Look at the corrosion on the points. No wonder it wasn't making any fire. We can fix that easy enough. Well, that all looks relatively simple. Well, that's all it is for points right there. They look burnt. But all the wiring that goes up to it looks pretty good. This looks good. Nothing looks out of whack here on the pickup. I think we put new points and condenser in it and we'll have fire. Provided these coils are good. If these coils aren't good, I guarantee you I've got a couple more coils that I could rob off another one I could try. But I expected to see a lot more yucky underneath there than that, but I think we can make this bad boy run. Well, before I go in and order parts, let's go ahead and let's just see what this gearbox has. What story it has to tell here. Hopefully it's a good one. Well, that's all gear oil. Pretty clean gear oil too. Looks like we got ourselves a candidate here. Prop's a little tough looking. I get her running. I think I'm going to have to invest in a prop before I take it on the water. This one's been it's been beat to tarnation. All right, let's top her back off with some good fresh oil. We're going to go ahead and drop the gearbox off on this thing and check out the water pump situation. There's two screws right here I've already removed, and there is a cover that's removed right there, and inside there you can see the straight blade screw. We're going to need to back that out. That's the shift shaft linkage. We pull that, back that screw all the way out. Looks like we take this bolt loose, and looks like 1, 2, 3, 4 bolts on the bottom here. We'll drop this gearbox right off. Let's get busy with that. Now that we got the gearbox off, let's go ahead and remove this impeller housing and see if I made a mistake or not by ordering just the impeller without any other pieces. You know me, if it ain't right, I gotta make it right, but hopefully everything else under here is pretty clean and it just needs a new impeller. Even if it doesn't need a new impeller, I always give it a new impeller anyway. Well, this doesn't look awful bad, but see the stress cracks in it? Well, we got the plate cleaned up, put back on here. We've got the little drive pin back in for the impeller. We're just waiting on the impeller. And before anybody gives me a bunch of crap about this being the wrong one, because this is the one that came out, there's plenty of room for this to fit up in there without any interference, and it's the right hole size, and it's going to work just fine and dandy. It was an extra one I had laying around here from other kits, so why not use it? Well, that looks quite a bit better. We power washed all the excess dirt and grime out of it. Still got some oxidation here I want to deal with. But boy, that made a heck of a difference. So when you're waiting on parts, why not clean it up? That's what we did here. Also did another little thing that I didn't share with you on camera. I got this back in a bag. And it all is just a coil. I think the nut came loose or something. I'm not sure what happened. But we got her all back in there. Working like she should. So that's ready to go back on top. One more piece of the puzzle. When parts arrive, we'll put the gearbox back together with our water pump. We'll get points put in here, see if we got spark. If we got spark and we got a carb kit, we're going to hear this thing make some sweet music. Good news, folks. One step closer, the new impeller showed up. Looks much better than the old one, doesn't it? Let's get it installed. First thing we're going to do, put our cleaned up plate back on. Once that's in place, I'll stick our little drive pin back in for the impeller. Whoa. Then we'll go ahead and put that in place. Put a little grease on things so it doesn't start up dry. And if this works like the others, I'm going to give it a try. I don't know if it will. We're going to see if we can rotate it and have it just suck itself in there. Oh yeah. Like a champ. Reinstall your screws. Now this particular one has a guide tube. I haven't seen that yet. But there again, I haven't seen everything yet either, so I haven't done a lot of these. I'll tighten those screws down and we're done. All right, now that we've got the water pump serviced, it's time to put the gearbox back in place. Don't forget to put grease on the splines. I also put a little bit of grease on this water pickup tube here, rubber or whatever you want to call it. That helps the tube slide in easier. And I put just a little touch here and some grease around this area here. It all just helps it go together, slide together easier. Well, guys, something that most people don't think about is, taking care of your prop. This one here was rough. It was beat up around the edges. I filed a little bit of that to make it smoother. It had some wrinkles in it from hitting stuff. I took a hammer and an anvil, and I went around and I kind of pounded that back flat. I wouldn't recommend to everybody or just anybody doing it. You got to be very careful not to screw up your pitch when you're doing that type of thing. But this thing was rough, pitted. Looks like it had been run through a gravel pile. Well, when you got a real rough surface here, that's like, friction in the water, which can rob you of horsepower. And when you only have 25 horsepower, you don't want to lose any of it. Why would you? It's even more important on outboards that have even less horsepower. And the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take I cleaned it all off, and now we're going to shoot it with some paint to protect the surface, and we'll make it look like new again. Well, as new as it can be for what it is. And before we reinstall it back on the outboard. Well, there you have it. Now we have a nice glossy surface. You can even see my reflection in it. That's going to slick through the water real nice now. Give me maximum output for the horsepower I got. When it dries, we'll install and move on to the top side of the Powerhead. Well, like I said, let's get started on the top end. We want to see if we can get some spark brought back in this old Johnson's life here. So what I've got here is the new little lubrication pad that runs around the cam, new points, new condenser, and a couple little clips. There's 2 sets of points in there, 2 condensers, 1 for each cylinder. So that's the kit that I'm going to put in. And don't forget the most important tool, the Roku remote control. You got to have one of those. So let's look over here, watch here. And let's dive into changing out those points and setting them. All right, I'm going to walk you through this first side step by step. And then we're going to, and all you need is a straight blade screwdriver, Phillips screwdriver, possibly if there's Phillips screws, and feeler gauge 20 thousandths thick. So one of the first things I want to do is remove this clip that's right here and try not to lose it. Then we're going to take the wiring loose here. We'll disconnect the condenser wire and the other wire. Don't lose that screw. Well, that can stay on that wire, I suppose. There we go. So, condenser's out of the way. Now these two wires, you want to keep track of them, keep them together. They're going to go back on the points over here. Just kind of move them to the side for a second. Next screw I'm going to take loose is going to be this flathead right here. We'll get that screw out of our way. Oops, that one fell out, so we'll go ahead and move it. And now what's left is we can lift this, should be able to lift this whole assembly off, just like that. I'll take note of this little clip right here. You'll get a new one of those in the kit. Excuse my finger, that's where I ripped the skin off the other day when a bolt spun. New base piece there. This spring goes inside that area there. So you got to get that piece wrangled in around behind that clip. So that's in behind, that little spring there's got to be behind that piece. And then you got quite a bit of spring tension on it. Anyway, push that down into place like that. Now that's down and lined up with the points there. We can reinstall this screw. And just bring it down until it just bottoms out. Don't get crazy tightening it yet. Go ahead and fasten our new condenser in place. Go ahead and tighten that down. Now you can see how this little wire here was looped around. We kind of want to do the same kind of thing there because we want to make sure that none of the wiring is going to rub on the flywheel. So we'll just kind of loop that around here. We can run that through there. There. I got that out of the way so it won't run into anything. Now there is a little detent on here. I almost put that on backwards, but that detent goes toward this side. There's a matching detent on the back side here. There we go. There, you saw that settle down into place there, so that's up in there tight. There we go. Now that's back in place. That assembly is complete. What we'll have left to do is adjust our points, and you'll use this little cam situation here. You see how that moves the points around? We'll establish the gap by using that, and then we'll tighten down the locking screw here. Now we're going to work on replacing the little oiler pad that lubricates the points. But you can see that's a trapped little piece right there. Sits right in here just like that. They supply one with each set of points. You only need one. So basically you just pull this one out like I just did. These come pre-lubricated. Don't add anything to it. Basically slide it back in there like this. You can see a little bit of my oil, fingers look a little oily from that. Because it doesn't require much lube. And then there, and then this goes back in there, which causes that to rub. Now you can stick this back in place. Now on the front side here, let's see if I can get you around here so you can see. When you're reinstalling this, make sure that this here is flush right here where this machine done part on the casting. Make sure that's flush when you tighten it down, both here and on the other side over here. You don't want that sticking out past, because that'll make contact with the flywheel and that won't do you any good. So it's unfortunate you have to pull all that off, but it's not a big deal. Let's see if I can get this all in one shot for you here. Right here, this says top, which would mean that'd be the top dead center. And right here, this says set. That's where you want to set your points. So we're going to bring that around to the center. There's a little, on this, you can see a little pad on here. And there's a little pad right below my screwdriver here. That's where the little fiber, just like this one here. That's where that little fiber piece right there rides on the cam. So you want that right centered over top. And with it over top, that's where we'll set our points gap. So by leaving this screw here a little bit loose, you know, just snug it down, and by using this little cam screw here, you can adjust the points open and closed. You want to get this thing so that you have a feeler gauge that will just slip in there and just feel the slightest, so slight of a drag there. When you pull it out, you shouldn't see the points move at all. You should feel a drag but not see it move. That's when you have your 20 thousandths gap. Now we do that on both sides. So this side's set, and I already set this side over here. Now the points gap is set, and I did throw the, I didn't show you this, but I did throw the flywheel nut on here just so I could put a wrench on it and rotate things around. So with that being done, we're ready to throw the flywheel on and see if we got any spark. Well, now that we got the points adjusted, I wanted to bring your attention to the coil packs. The coil packs look a little bit rusty, look a little bit tough, or a little green around the gills, pun intended on this one. But the wiring coming out of it looks good and healthy. It's just a little rusty. I'm probably going to take these off and clean them up anyway. But while it's in this condition, I'm going to go ahead and see if I've got spark. So let's put the flywheel back on and see if we got spark. When you're putting this back on, be mindful of the key and the keyway in here to make sure that lines up perfectly as you put it back together. Well, let's see if we got spark. I turned the lights off, so hopefully we can see a little easier on camera, but there you go. Got spark there. Let's check the bottom cylinder. Right there. We got spark. Well, that's good news. We got spark. We've got compression. And now we need fuel. So the carburetor rebuild is next. Let's put that carburetor back together, and I'll show you step by step how I'm putting it back together and then how we reinstall it on here. And we'll be really close to seeing if we can make this thing sing again. Now that we have spark, let's see if we can make these coils look a little bit better. let's reinstall the carburetor. We'll put our gasket back on. Our new gasket, we got the surface scraped clean here, the mating surface. Carburetor will just slip right back in here. Alrighty, I want to show you a little something I experienced with this thing that I thought was kind of unusual. You know, I put the flywheel, put the new points and condensers underneath the flywheel, put the flywheel back on. I thought everything was hunky-dory, had good spark. But I also noticed that when I did that, I couldn't twist the throttle anymore. It's like, what the heck's hanging up on the throttle? And I'd roll this thing around. I couldn't figure out what was going on. I thought, well, maybe is this thing bent? What's going on? Took me a little bit to figure it out, but then I discovered on this flywheel, see if you can see it here, right there, there's a crack. That flywheel has a crack that runs from here, up and over to here. I've never seen that before. How does a flywheel crack like that? I have a feeling somebody was pulling on it wrong. There's no evidence around the edge that somebody was beating on it, but it's kind of weird. But anyway, it delayed my project for a week. And I ended up buying another used flywheel off eBay. It showed up today. We installed it. It's back on. We got good strong spark. And now I have another couple of issues I need to address. On the kill switch, the carburetor's not completely tidied up yet, but the kill switch wires I disconnected because the insulation is falling off of them. So that could give you some intermittent run problems real easily just by having that thing touch and ground out while you're trying to run down the lake. So I'm gonna have to go ahead and tidy up the kill switch wires on this outboard. And then I'm gonna put me on a new fuel line, and I think this fuel pump, we'll see if this fuel pump will pump any fuel. If it's pumping okay, I'm gonna leave it be. If it doesn't pump okay, I've got another one I can stick on it now, another new one I can stick on it. But I think I got everything in the carburetor working good. Got it all back together. The only thing I don't have on, I haven't put this back in place yet because this is going to be adjusted. And once this is adjusted, I slip this back into place, and that way we got our little lean rich knob we can rotate here. So. But yeah, it seems like everything's timed out pretty good. I like it. I think it's going to work out really good. So let's finish putting some things on it. I think I'm going to be ready to test fire it here in a little bit. Alrighty, we got all our new fuel line put on. We have got some gas tank hooked up to this. I've got the primer bulb primed. I'm going to try it without choking it. And let's see if we can get this thing to start. Let's try a little choke. Alrighty, it's been a couple hours since I ran this. It ran great. I let it run for about 2 hours. Now I'm going to pump it back up full of gas. I did run the carburetor dry. So now we're going to try a cold start and see how well she starts cold, because that's what it's going to be like when I get on the lake. So we're going to pump the carburetor full of gas. There we go. We got a hard bulb. Move this to the start position. Let's give her a yank. Maybe we'll give her a choke, eh? Alright, the cool thing is I've got a new kill switch in here, and if you buy the kill switch from the original equipment type kill switch that goes in here, from what I found online, is $96. $96. I'm going to show you how to do it for less than $15, and you're going to love it. And it works just like a charm. Look at this. Kill. 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 Ain't that a beauty, Clark? You gotta love that. Let me show you what I did. I gotta give you some details because it is one heck of a nice fix. We'll see how long it lasts, but I don't see why it wouldn't last quite some time. Okay, so normally your kill switch looks like this. That's on these 11 Roods and Johnsons. And what happens here, it looks like the old wire gets pretty brittle, and it just starts breaking and flaking, and there's bare spots. It's just crumbled. The wire's just crumbly. And it has a connection like this on the other end. And it has a nut like this that holds it in place. Now you can go down to your local Napa store and get this part number. It's part number 786105. I'm not going to put a link in the description. It's just going to be right here in the video. So if you watch my video, you will benefit. If you don't watch my video, you will not benefit from this knowledge. The cool part is, this is less than $10. It's like $9 and some odd cents at Napa. It's a brass push button switch. So it's normally off until you push the button and it makes a connection. And that's all you need to kill the motor. Let's go over to the outboard and take a look at what I did. So the original connectors that connect the wire coming out from underneath your flywheel and the wire coming from your coil come together into one plug. That happens twice. So you got a upper cylinder and a lower cylinder setup here. What I did is cut that off, and I put some of these covered male-female connectors here. These are 12 gauge. They handle 10 to 12 gauge wire. And I've got 12 gauge wire coming out of here. So what I did is I crimped, and you guys know how I feel about crimping, but there's no way to really solder these and have a good effective, you can't solder them, let's just put it that way, this style. So I did a real good crimp on both ends here. It's rock solid. And then I ran this brown wire into I did some heat shrink tubing here, just to kind of protect the wire as it lays across the housing from vibration and shake, and just so it don't rub through. Let's come around to the other side here. I got it coming out the other side. Yeah, this is green heat or yellow heat shrink on this side. But then you've got your two crimp connectors here. That just takes a Phillips screw to hold them on. And then I actually put some heat shrink tube over that. So once I got these good and tight, I put some heat shrink tube over that, so that would actually be completely insulated from one another there. and the son of a gun works like a champ, and it looks just about factory there. This has a 5/8 diameter body that comes through, threaded body, as you can see inside here, which fits right through the original equipment plates that are both on the inside and the outside of this, as you can see here. Pretty slick. So, as you saw, you can give it a pull. You got yourself a kill switch, and you spent less than $15. These connections I bought, the connections I would say are $2.29 a box for these, and I bought a box of each, so there's about $5. I bought less than $10 for the switch. A couple more connections here, some heat shrink tubing. So yes, the reality of it is you're probably spending $18, but you've got a heck of a good fix here, and I think it's going to last a long time. And eventually you're not going to be able to buy these switches from the marine, like Crowley Marine or MarineEngine.com. I priced it on MarineEngine.com. This switch was $96. So, and they're not sponsoring me, so they're not sending me any free stuff, so I got to figure out how to do this for the most cost-effective way possible. And now I got me a kill switch, which is perfect, which is really great news, because the old Outboard I had out last weekend is missing all the stuff all together. The cool part is, I'm pretty sure I made a copy. I just made a cardboard outline of the template I need, and I'll make me another one of those, and we'll get that bad boy off and running. So this is a really killer good fix. I think it's gonna be we're gonna have a good day on the lake tomorrow, because this bad boy is just running like it's nobody's business. Yeah, I can just one hand to give it a little pop. Whoops, a little harder than that. Now we got a killer kill switch. Can't beat that. Now what I did notice when I did a cold start this time, it ran better when I opened this up and let a little more juice get to it. And then once it warmed up for about 10 or 15 seconds, brought her back to here, and she drops right back into a good smooth run. So that puts the motor in the good shape that we need it to be in. We're ready to drop that on the back of the SeaNymph. We're going to do that here in a second, and we'll be heading to the lake tomorrow morning first thing. We're going to see how well this old outboard performs. One more little addition we're going to put on this here trailer and boat is a motor support. Right now, it all just hangs on the back of the boat. You get on a bouncy road, things get a little dicey. So we're going to put this bad boy on here so we can actually offer some support for this motor. Is this thing on? Well, folks, we had a great day out on the lake this morning. It was awesome. I'm just now putting the boat away. This Johnson performed flawlessly. It top speed of 20 miles an hour. We hit occasionally. It runs solid at 19 with both of us in the boat. Just did exactly what it should do. Really enjoyed it today. It was fun. We had as you saw, there was no more. If you're catching some of the videos, the previous video I did, I showed where I had a rooster tail coming off this thing that was terrible from this transducer mount. I put a new mount plate on there, got it put in the right position. This thing did not kick up a single rooster tail. It worked flawlessly. It just did exactly what it should have done. Ran through the water smooth, and I never even lost transducer imaging at all. It worked really good. So anyway, that about sums up this boat. I tell you what, I really like that. And after hauling it with that transom saver, I think they are, whatever that supports the bottom end of this motor against the trailer frame. When this trailer is bouncing up and down, this motor is locked down solid, tight to the boat and the trailer. Last motor I had, the Evinrude I had on here, this thing bounced and did all kinds of weird stuff. I did not like it at all. And the other thing I mounted on here, let's take a quick look over here. Now, something I added on the boat before last time I took it out is I wanted to be able to have a trolling motor on here, and I wanted it to be something I could leave on instead of, right now I just carried it in the bottom of the boat, and the problem with that is in the bottom of the boat, it's sliding around doing funky stuff. I needed a nice secure transom mount, and as you can see, this one here has got a adjustment like that. It works really well. This thing is rock solid. I put a piece of 1/2 inch thick by 6 inch wide aluminum plate. I've got it lagged on here with 4 bolts through the transom, through the interior wood, and I tried hauling it. You guys might think this is weird, but I thought, well, let me back up a little bit so you get a better shot. I thought if I hauled it, transported it like this, that this would be the right thing to do. That is not the right thing to do, as I discovered. This thing will sit there, every bump you hit, it's sitting there doing like this. It's just jockeying the whole time. And then it starts working on things. It really worked really well. Just having this in the vertical position. And I had it locked so it wouldn't spin. But that way, when the boat's bouncing up and down, like that, it just moves with it. It isn't doing all this stuff all the time because all the movement's up and down. As you can see, I can wiggle it like that and start bouncing it, and it settles. So that actually worked out pretty good for transporting it that way, just like you would an outboard. Anyway, pretty pleased with how that turned out. I tried the trolling motor today with the motor still down in the water, this wide open. I could actually push this along at 2 miles an hour on the wide open setting, which is fine. If I tipped the motor out so I wasn't dragging that, I could probably go a little faster. But the only reason I've got this trolling motor on here is for if I have a motor in the water that conks out, I can just kick this bad boy on, push myself back to shore or back to the boat ramp and get this out of the water and do some work on it. So I don't have to paddle. So that's the main purpose for that being here, and I'm really enjoying it so far. Well, I hope you guys found this video helpful and informative and enjoyable to watch. I had a good time making it. We had a good time with the outboard, like I said. We're gonna do a little more. I'm gonna do a little more gel coat work here on this hood. Otherwise, this outboard is complete and ready to rock and roll. I'm thrilled with it. You guys get out there and do something fun. Enjoy life. Don't waste a minute of it, and get something accomplished. Why not? I found out, what I do is I try to do a little bit every day, and you don't have to do a lot every day. If you just do one little item, one little chore, one little something to move things ahead, at the end of a week, you've got 7 pieces of something done, which adds up to a lot of things you can get done in that amount of time. So you don't have to tackle all these chores and all these things you got going on in your life. Just you eat an elephant one bite at a time. You can't consume it all at once. So I don't know if you've ever heard that saying before. I heard it once. I don't think I'd ever want to eat an elephant, but to each his own. Anyway, you guys get out there and have some fun, folks. This is Michael, and I'm out.